Is Israel planning a military strike on Iran to stop its alleged covert nuclear program? That's the question being asked today after new reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his defense minister Ehud Barak are lobbying members of Israel's security cabinet to possibly approve a preemptive strike on Iran. So far, the head of the Israeli army, the Mossad, and the General Security Services all oppose military action in Iran. Many believe the mission would be too complicated, too ineffective, and carry too many risks. We came here to the Institute for National Security Studies to talk to Yiftah Shapir. He's an expert in military regional affairs. I began by asking him how close Iran is to producing its first nuclear bomb.
We believe that, I think the general assumption is that Iran is between 6 months and a year or two from the capability to build a nuclear weapon if they so decide. But nobody is sure that they've actually decided to go. And there's a big question whether they actually want to complete and go out of the closet, or maintain maybe a strategy similar to the Israeli one.
Are you worried by the reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Ehud Barak may have made some kind of private pact to move forward on plans for a military strike on Iran?
Yes. Yes, I'm worried, because I think, personally, I think it's a bad move, even if we risk facing nuclear-armed Iran.
Why?
Because, first of all, I don't believe that an Israeli attack would prevent the Iranians from achieving nuclear weapons. It might have delayed their program for quite a few years had we struck some 5-6 years ago.
But now you think a strike won't make a difference?
Now it's much more difficult. We know that they have other sites. Our capability to really stop, I don't think anybody is capable of stopping that program altogether. We have very good capabilities in delaying it for another year, for another period of time, but I think the consequences of such an attack would be severe.
What are the consequences?
First of all, well, we don't know what the Iranians can do and will do. There is, of course, a risk that they would counterattack Israel with ballistic missiles from Iran. There is a much greater danger that they would invoke a rocket attack, massive rocket attack from Lebanon. Although, I must add a caveat, we know that Iran is helping Hezbollah, but we don't know that Hezbollah is an obedient servant of Iran, and Hezbollah might decide that such an attack is
not in their interest,
not in their best interest, and they wouldn't do that. They are not Iran's humble servants, but the danger exists. And the political consequences all over the world. For example, we risk, I think, severe rupture between Israel and the United States, because such an attack cannot be made without crossing airspace dominated by the United States Armed Forces.
We know from what at least the former Chief of Staff, Admiral Mike Mullen, said that, you know, the Americans seem to be against any kind of Israeli strike.
Yes, of course, because that would imply on the United States. Nobody in the Muslim world, Arab or otherwise, would believe that Israel can strike without American consent. And whether we attack with or without American consent, the American foreign policy would suffer greatly in the whole region. And of course, that would come back to us from the United States. We are really putting the whole American foreign policy in the region in jeopardy.
Is it a smart choice then to perhaps, as some suggest, wait for the United States to maybe take part in a joint strike on Iran or lead one?
I don't think there is a point in waiting, because I don't think anybody in the United States has any appetite for another strike in the Middle East. I think conquering Iraq was a great mistake back in 2003. It was attacking the wrong enemy, but Iran always was much stronger than Iraq, and a strike against Iran would have been much more difficult. Now, when American forces are retreating from Iraq, nobody is going to attack Iran. I really don't think anybody in the United States has the willingness to invest in such an attack.
And that kind of attack would not be an easy attack?
No, not at all. In order to completely destroy Iran's nuclear capability, you'd have to strike hundreds of targets over and over again over a long period of time to be certain, to a certain degree, that you really have stopped the program.
So if Israel can't strike, and it doesn't seem like the United States is up for the attack, what can be done to hinder Iran's nuclear program?
Unfortunately, I believe, and I believe for a long time now, that, how should I put it, the only way to roll back a nuclear program is by convincing a state that it is not in its best interest. This approach succeeded in very few cases in recent history, and I don't believe it's going to succeed with Iran.
So do you basically think it's a fait accompli, like a done deal?
I think it is already here. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of difference between the situation right now and when everybody in the world knows that Iran is very close to having nuclear weapon, to the situation where everybody asks themselves, do they already have it or do they not? Or a situation where Iran has already performed a nuclear test. There are not going to be very big differences. And sooner or later, I think, would have to come to terms with the fact and find the best way to live with it. For example, a kind of nuclear balance of power.